Morning, and it makes me feel like we're back at home again. My name is Donna Klemke, and I'll be your service leader for today. I want to warmly welcome Leslie McMichael. It makes me feel so nostalgic for our time together in Lewis Hall. And I want to thank Nathan also for being our tech support. We are a lay-led community strengthened and enriched by weaving together the volunteer contributions of members and friends. If you're new, we're especially glad you're here. Please participate as you feel comfortable in this new adventure of online Sunday services. Human connection and relationship are important parts of our community. We invite you to stay for the conversation following the end of the service. This year, our fellowship has formed 6 theme-based teams of volunteers to create a wealth of diverse and thoughtful Sunday services. And today, with the Transcending Mystery and Wonder team, we will explore November's theme of healing. We invite you to shift gears and join us in cultivating light in your heart in these challenging times. In the spirit of being fully present, the chat room will be closed during the service, but you'll still be able to chat with Nathan if you need any tech help. We want to focus our attention on the experiences we will have together. Without distraction, we hope we can develop our capacity for healing in these times of darkness. As we settle in, we want to acknowledge that our congregation is committed to individual freedom of belief, welcomes diversity, seeks to promote a sense of community, and fosters religion which enriches the spirit. Whoever you are, whomever you love, however you arrived here, you are welcome.
The wound is the place where the light enters you. And Leonard Cohen's lyrics from the anthem say the same. There is a crack in everything. That's how the light gets in.
As our Transcending Mystery and Wonder team met in person outside at Donna's home and on Zoom to design this healing service for you, we realized that while we were drawn to exploring and sharing healing practices, we needed to acknowledge both the personal and collective pain and suffering that has existed and yet been amplified in 2020. It's part of being human to feel these inner states of suffering. Yet from these broken down, torn apart, and red hot, angry parts of ourselves, healing truly is possible. Today, members of our team will share personal stories of loss and talk about loss on our collective level. We created this service hoping to offer you and your loved ones suggested pathways into healing, restoring, and nourishing your inner self. Our opening words today are from Jada DeWalt, quote, "Healing is more about accepting the pain and finding a way to peacefully coexist with it. In the sea of life, pain is a tide that will ebb and weave continually. We need to learn how to let it wash over us without drowning in it. Our life doesn't have to end where the pain begins, but rather it's where we start to mend." To help us take in the wisdom of all the readings, music, poetry, and humor in this service, let's begin with a short meditation to open our hearts and minds. So please find yourself sitting in a comfortable seat, possibly with your feet on the floor, and close your eyes. Bring your hands to your heart center. We will breathe in and out of our hearts as if your heart was doing the breathing in your body. Inhaling and exhaling out of your heart center. Feeling your chest lift on your inhale. Feeling your chest release on your exhale. Bring attention to your heart center again and again. Inhaling and exhaling out of your heart center, your emotional wisdom, your place of healing. Whenever you're ready, release your hands from your heart center and gently open your eyes again.
There's a bell hooks quote that I thought was appropriate for joys and concerns, and it's this: rarely, if ever, are any of us healed in isolation. Healing is an act of communion. As a caring community, we set aside time to share joys and concerns with members of and friends, honoring the common humanity and sacred spirit within each of us. We support each other in difficult times and celebrate joys together. If you have a joy or concern you'd like to share, or a burden that might be eased by sharing it in community, you are invited to share it. Let's take a moment in silence to prepare our hearts. Today, after each joy or concern is expressed, we will allow for a moment of silence as well. Take 3 breaths and wait for the bell to ring. And as we usually do, raise your hand if you have a joy or concern, and then Nathan will spotlight you, and then you unmute yourself and go ahead, and I'll light a candle for you.
All right, so anyone that's hoping to share, feel free to raise your hand and I will spotlight you. Leah, I'm seeing you.
Hey, I just wanted to share about the joy of our youth.
All right, and for some reason I just lost Amy's window. Ah, oh, there she is.
According to Katie Kavinsky, pain is like water. It finds a way to push through any seal. There's no way to stop it. Sometimes you have to let yourself sink inside of it before you can learn how to swim to the surface. In this part of the service, we want to offer our personal experiences with pain and healing and some healing practices that have helped us find peace, balance, and a renewed sense of self. We also want to talk about the need for collective healing in communities in the greater world. First, personal healing. You may know that I lost my husband, Alan, at age 64 in 2016 to Alzheimer's disease. He was depressed and he had lost his will to live. During the 5 years from diagnosis to death, he agonized and railed over yet another loss. His inability to keyboard, use his phone, remember his address, or smell his coffee felt deeply saddening to me. This brilliant PhD, lover of birds, humor, and ice cream melted into a man who woke daily in deep depression, filled with criticism and sadness. After he died, I sank into a deep depression. What was my future without him? Who was I if not his caregiver? I missed his hugs. I missed his care for our garden. I missed how he supported me. I wondered why I was still alive. I cried my heartache into the earth, taking my dog on yet another hike in nature. But his brother Larry grabbed me by the shoulders and looked deeply into my sad eyes. He died so that you wouldn't suffer anymore, Amy. You are alive. And my friend Margaret invited me to meditate with her, studying how to shift my consciousness from suffering to beautiful inner states of compassion, connection, and joy. Since 2017, I have really reclaimed my life through the teachings of Margaret and O&O Academy. Since March, I practice meditation every morning with Margaret's circle of seekers of all races and time zones via Zoom. It grounds my days, opens my heart, and showers me with blessings so that my life now has purpose and meaning. I'm honored to be president of Vashon Rotary Club and the ambassador of Rotary's connection with Music Men's Minds, which is actually flourishing globally during this COVID year. I have a steady, loving relationship with Thomas, a much deeper connection with my daughter, my siblings, and extended family, and every one of you. I'm deeply touched and grateful for this fellowship and for the teamwork of my Transcending Mystery and Wonder team that gives purpose to my life and my heart.
If there ever has been a time in my life when healing is needed, that time has arrived. The presidential election took its toll on me, fearful for the loss of our democracy. If Trump were to win a second term, I remain concerned about the striking divisions of our citizens and our differing perspectives on democracy. Devastation from the fires in the West are terrifying symbols of climate change that threatens to destroy our tender planet in the coming generation. Healthcare is on the chopping block, while over 268,000 Americans have died from the coronavirus. Many more would no longer have the ability to seek medical care for COVID.
Can you speak a little louder, Amy, and closer to the microphone? Thank you.
Many more would no longer have the ability to seek medical care for COVID if the Affordable Care Act was struck down. History has revealed its ugliness in the pandemic of 1918, when millions died without the improved medical knowledge and research now available to us in 2020. Yet in spite of this, we are all sitting in front of our computers today in the Sunday service, unable to meet at Lewis Hall while the coronavirus pandemic continues to rage. We wear masks at the grocery store, the pharmacy, the gas station. We cannot hug one another nor spend time with our grandchildren. We cannot have friends over to dinner nor attend a meeting inside with others. Our children must stay home for online learning, while many parents struggle to hold on to their jobs and we all know suffering firsthand, especially now. As a human being, you have all known suffering over and over again in your life. The loss of a beloved pet in childhood, heartbreak, the struggles of parenting, your own health challenges, the loss of a job, aging, the death of a parent or close friend. On a personal level, I miss sitting indoors with friends, talking, sharing a meal, hugging. I miss my daughter, whose job in the public sector prevents our close contact. I miss the Saturday market, shows at the VAA, Halloween uptown. My extended family Thanksgiving was canceled, as will be Christmas. We are forced to be separate from others, unable to enjoy the exchange of loving energy that we experience from being together instead of on a screen. In our humanity, we thrive on happiness and feel the pain of heartbreak and loss. It is that simple. We are humans with big, open hearts. We are tender beings. This horrific pandemic has compromised our quality of life and our community in ways that we have yet to fully understand. Now more than ever, we are called to heal ourselves and be present to support others. Soon after I learned of my second cancer diagnosis, my neighbor who was struggling with her own medical issues suggested that we host small neighborhood street dances over the summer months. And that we did, just outside our garage, with the help of a neighbor's speaker and our phones holding cherished dance music. We hosted 3 dances with no more than 14 people attending, dancing on our small road. It was exhilarating, playful, fun, and healing. One silver lining of the pandemic for me has been my renewed commitment to my at-home yoga practice. My yoga, my steady, 5 days a week. Ditto for my morning meditation, once infrequent, now almost daily. Both have brought me home to my quiet internal spirit and energy that give back to me all day. They've been vital to my wellness throughout the year. Silence, quietude, peacefulness, tender connections with stillness. Having survived some spring and summer outdoors, we are now going inside, alone with family members. Time with friends is limited to walks and outdoor time, raincoats, boots, and warm clothing a must. It will be a long and lonely winter, cautious, frustrating, separate. I'm grateful for being with Rick and the healing nature of our hugs, holding, and touch. Not everyone is as fortunate. Touch is healing for most of us and is sorely missing between friends and some family members during COVID. It has been a long, long year. There are many months ahead with the pandemic, challenging each of us to survive and thrive. What resources do you have that are healing? Where do you go in times of need and respite? What personal rituals or traditions can you rely upon to help you get through this difficult time? Who was your safe haven for tender conversation? Do you have someone in your life to turn to in times of need? Our team created a long list of practices and experiences that we rely on in times of healing. The following is a taste for what works for us. Perhaps some of these ring true for you. Sweet silence, dancing, telling your story, singing, Tonglen meditation practice, which we'll be talking about later, journaling, sitting still, laughter and humor, creative practices, being outside in nature, being held by another in times of need, holding a pet, nonverbal eye contact, the caring warmth from another, letting go, turning it over, finding something that is deeply you, reading poetry, which we'll talk about later also. What might be on your list of healing practices and experiences? How do you hope to get through the next 6 to 12 months of the coronavirus? Let's not be caught with our pants down. We are in this for the long run, and it is time to do as good squirrels would. Store up on our supply of nurturing resources and be intentional to dig deep into our treasure trove for strength and inner wisdom. Let us heal from the shared pain and suffering of these troubled times. And if possible, we can then reach out to others in their time of need. One healing practice our team wanted to explore is called Tonglen meditation. We're going to do this with Tara Brach, an author and teacher of meditation and emotional healing, the founder of the Insight Meditation Community in Washington, D.C. She is an engaged Buddhist specializing in using mindfulness meditation for emotional healing. She is going to lead us now in Tonglen meditation.
Apologies. I'm gonna get this, I promise.
If you'd like to close your eyes and just take a moment to find yourself sitting in a way that's awake, relaxed. Take a moment to settle. And as you do, become aware of the movement of your breath. Let your attention ride the breath. And imagine and sense with the in-breath that you're letting in this world. You're letting yourself be touched by this world. You're opening to receive. You're saying yes to this world. And in a very particular way, you're saying yes and opening to touch what we often don't want to feel, the pain that's here. You might start by even feeling as you breathe in that you're touching into your own pain, how your heart is experiencing the world, because it really helps. There's circles of compassion. We start right with the inner circle. where we feel fear or confusion, and just breathe in, and it's like you're saying yes to it. It's like a continuation of saying, this belongs. And if it helps, put your hand on your heart to keep a steady attention, just breathing in, saying yes, touching what's here. And with the out breath, imagine and sense that you're letting it be held by the vast, loving presence in this universe. You're letting it be held by all the ancestors that have created and brought forth what's right here. You're letting it be held by all the awake hearts in this world, by all the goodness in this world. You're letting it be held by this vast earth and by this boundless sky, so that you can breathe in and touch a pain that's right here. And you can breathe it out and know that it's being held in your own enlarged being, the loving presence that has no bound. And you can begin to breathe in and out for others too, and for groups of others that have experienced the particular and horrific violence that we see on this earth, when those in the non-dominant populations lower in the caste system are wounded so severely. You can breathe in for Black, Indigenous, people of color. You can breathe in for the women across the planet that have been dominated and abused, for those with different sexual orientation, for anyone, any being, anywhere that has been dominated, has experienced injustice and violence. You can breathe in and open yourself to that pain. Let it belong. And you can breathe out and let it be held by the love and presence in this world. Let it be held. You might imagine hundreds of us breathing in and out in this way, touching courageously the sufferings in our world, and realizing that wisdom realization that this belongs to awareness, that we belong to awareness, that we are that shared heart space that can hold the sufferings of this world and transform them. And as you bring your attention back right here to this moment, just feel your breath, feel your body sitting here. And feel the goodness of that love and awareness that lives through this particular body-mind. And you can open your eyes as you feel ready. I want to thank each of you for being part of this. You held a beautiful space together for each other. Blessings.
As Tara Raj taught us, Tonglen can be done on a personal and on the collective level for the larger world. Healing is so important at this collective level. I think about our history of systemic racism and the work we need to do around this. Many of us are committed to healing racism through activism. We're familiar with activism, but I want to talk about a complementary path to our action, a path to healing our white bodies. Last month, in a service that Tanya led, we had a felt experience in Dominique's very personal talk about his life and his organization, Community Passageways. He is a committed activist with a compelling story. He talked about his story, the story of racism, and we felt his words in our hearts, in our bodies. Resmaa Menakem describes this heart and body impact of racism in his book, My Grandmother's Hands. In his book, he examines the damage caused by racism in America and recommends ways to heal our racial trauma. He believes that racism is not about our heads, it's not about concepts, but it's about our bodies. He asserts that the deep-seated generational anguish of white supremacy resides and endures deeply in our bodies, not just Black bodies, but white bodies too. Racism and other ills that plague society are what he calls somatic trauma. It's what we felt when we listened to Dominique last month. Menakem asserts that we actually metabolize trauma, that our bodies retain and reenact history. In this way, white body supremacy becomes part of our culture. To describe this, he coined the term cultural somatics. Racism is the kind of dirty pain that we have passed on to others in our culture. And this matters deeply because culture creates a sense of belonging. But this is a wound that we can heal. The complete title of Menakem's book includes the words, Racialized Trauma and the Pathway to Mending Our Hearts and Bodies. Menakem asserts that white bodies have a choice to choose what he calls clean pain and grow up, or choose dirty pain that increases age-old trauma and passes it on to others. Menakem says that we all have the capacity to heal and create room for others to heal. And he offers simple body-centered practices that we can do together that help heal racial trauma. He also offers approaches that law enforcement professionals can take towards somatic healing. It's a hopeful book that allows a fresh approach for both Black and white bodies. Menakem offers us healing practices, as he says, we can do in trust. These are body experiences, somatic experiences, like humming together or silently walking together, moving in a way that we keep our footsteps in sync. Since we can't do these things over Zoom, we thought we would offer poetry as a healing salve. Poetry is often felt in the body, in our hearts. So we invite you to experience this with us. I want to read from an essay written by Jane Hirschfield. It's Poetry, Permeability, and Healing. Part of the reason people turn to poetry, its writing or reading, is that they have some belief that language in itself is a reservoir. At the root of the words healing and health is the idea of wholeness. To heal is to take what has been broken, fragmented, injured, and restore it to wholeness. Poems can be found addressing every realm of what in our lives can feel broken. Poems are words that live in fractures. Poetry tells us that we are not singled out by our suffering. We are brought into the shared life of all who have lived and died before us. Here is an example of the power of poetry that we listen to.
The Peace of Wild Things, written and read by Wendell Berry.
When despair for the world grows in me, and I wake in the night at the least sound, in fear of what my life and my children's lives may be, I go and lie down where the wood drake rests in his beauty on the water, and the great heron feeds. I come into the peace of wild things, who do not tax their lives with forethought of grief. I come into the presence of still water, and I feel above me the day-blind stars waiting with their light. For a time, I rest in the grace of the world and am free.
Poetry is also something we can write. It's accessible to us as a healing practice. Rupi Kaur is an example of this. She writes short, what you might call small poems on loss, trauma, and healing. Here are two of her poems. To be soft is to be powerful. To heal, you have to get to the root of the wound and kiss it all the way up. Writing poetry can be a healing salve. Poems are said to reflect the voice of the soul. Here's another one. A beam of light streaming through the window reminds me of who I am. Another accessible form of poetry is a 6-word memoir, just 6 words. The New York Times published an article on 6-word memoirs as something to write in these COVID times. Here are 2 of these memoirs. The first, the world has never felt smaller. And the second one, social distancing myself from the fridge. Here's a 5-word memoir of loss and healing. Loved, lost, cried, raged, chocolate.
So this is a time that we would be splitting up into small groups, but given that we had such an abundant joys and concerns, and we are needing to cut our service a little bit short. So I'm hopeful that you will consider after the service to think about what your sources of healing are and what are your practices and places of healing. So we'll move now directly to the offertory.
Our love calls us to act for peace, social and economic justice, freedom of belief, and protection of the planet and its inhabitants. As individuals and as a congregation, we engage in worthy local and global causes. We stay informed on issues of our time. Though each step may seem small, we persevere, our spirits renewed by involvement. By our actions, we hope to inspire others to join us in this work. One Sunday a month, we use 100% of our collection for the nonprofit of our choice. Other Sundays, the collection adds to the vibrancy of our fellowship. Today's offering supports this congregation, our beloved community, And we encourage people to make a donation in a jar at home or through our website. Please take a moment and locate your checkbook or your wallet or your jar to set aside your offering for today. This is your opportunity to give generously. Please sing at home while Leslie plays We Give Thanks.
For our final reading, I will be reading something from Mark Nepo's The Book of Awakening. Laughter is a raw and primal sort of thing, an elemental way of giving voice to our suffering. It was remarkably healing, my laughter. I learned a great truth from that unexpected chorus. I learned that even when we feel powerless, we can always give voice to our pain and hope, to the slim, ongoing fact of our being alive. We often underestimate the power of giving voice, but it is real and sustaining. It is the basics of all song. It is why prisoners break into song. It's why the blues are sung, even when no one is listening. It is at the heart of all hymns and mantras. And it works its healing, not so much by being heard as by the fact that in giving voice to what lives within, even through the softest whisper, we allow the world of spirit to soften our pain. In this way, the smallest moan is in itself a lullaby. In giving voice to what we feel, the darkest cry uttered with honesty can arrive as the holiest of songs. The following will bring a little breath of fresh air to you as we complete our service. So here comes.
Sorry, all, give me 1 second.
This is the keep going, keep going, keep going, keep going on song. This is a keep going, keep going, keep going, keep going on song. This is a keep going, keep going, keep going, keep going on song. I am Abigail, and this is Sean, and we're so glad that you've turned this on and welcomed us into your home, and you are welcome into our home. We're in Dayton, Ohio. We're in Sean's parents' house.
My parents' house.
Sean's parents' house. We were in Louisville when the shit hit, and we packed our 3-year-old into a car. We drove kind of far. We drove here, and we've been so lucky and blessed to be safely here. And we thought we'd be here for like 10 days, tops.
What did we know?
What did we know?
What
What did we know? We thought we knew a lot. We thought we knew a lot. Woo! Keep going on song. This is a keep going, keep going, keep going on. Keep going on song. This is a keep going, keep going, keep going on. Keep going on song. And we've been mostly healthy. We've been okay. Are you okay? Are you alright? Are you okay? Are you alright? Are you okay? I hope your body is whole tonight. And if your heart is breaking, I hope it's breaking open. And if your breath is shaking, I hope it's shaking through. And then I hope that you've watched a lot of really great television, like a lot of it. And I hope that you find a hand lotion that actually makes your skin feel better. And I hope that you have enough to eat. I hope you're getting enough sleep, and I hope you have enough good company or enough good memory to last you a long time. Keep going, keep going, keep going on. Keep going on song. We sing the keep going, keep going, keep going, keep going on. Keep going on song. Let's bring some joy into the room, why not? We can try it, or some rage, and some grief and relief. Ooh, I hope my rage, I pray my rage is a fire that cleans my mind out and makes me ready to listen. I pray my pain is a river that flows to the ocean that connects my pain to yours. And I pray my happiness is like pollen that flies to you and pollinates your joy. Oh boy, is that possible? I don't know. We are making this up as we go. We have to make it up as we go. The keep going song, the keep going song. Oh, we're making it up. We're making it up as we go. Keep going on. Keep going on song. And I pray that when we meet again, that the world has changed into the world that we are imagining now together. And I pray that the world has become the world that we're planting inside of ourselves for each other and for our ancestors and for our kids. Ooh, and we're gonna start. This is a rough beginning. That's all I've got is a rough beginning to offer you. We're gonna start by singing some songs in this tiny space together. We're just gonna sing some songs for you, and we hope that when you hear them, you will feel a little bit less alone, and we will feel a little bit less alone in the work and in the hurt, and we will be together tonight somehow, whenever this is, wherever this is. We will be together tonight for the keep going on. Keep going on song. Keep going on, song. This is a keep going on. Keep going on, song. This is a keep going on. Keep going on.
As I extinguish the chalice, I'm going to say the words of Rumi again. The wound is the place where the light enters you. There's a crack in everything, and that's how the light gets in.
Now that the formal part of our service is over, we'll continue with announcements. Does anyone have a brief one?
Pamela, you're up.
Okay, I'm talking about possible books for the VIUF book club, and so far I've received 11 possible things, and I will send them out to anyone who's interested, but I need you to let me know if you want to see what the list is and vote on what you want the next book to be. I'd like to have everyone's choices back by December 6th. Is that next day? When is that? Next Sunday or the Sunday after? I don't know what date it is anymore. Anyway, I'd like to have the responses all back by the 6th, but I need to know who is interested and would like to vote on what they'd like to have as the next book. So if you're interested, please send an email to PamelaRgott@gmail.com, and I'll send you the list and you can vote on what your favorite is. Do a first choice and a second choice, and maybe the second choice will be our next book the month afterwards. But this would be to talk about in January. So it gives us the month of December to read the book, and then we'll talk about it in January. So let me know if you're interested. I have the list here to send out to you if you let me know. Thanks.
Thanks, Pamela. Beth, I'm seeing you.
Vanessa Barwick is facing the possibility of having to move out of her home. And if any of you know of rentals that are 2 or 3 bedrooms somewhere underneath $2,000, please contact Vanessa.
Thank you, Beth. Any other announcements? Okay.
Nathan, me.
Okay.
Hello. I am announcing next week's program, which we're calling Golden Threads. It's part of the arts team, loosely the arts team. which is a little bit my fault. But what we're asking everyone to do, we're going to actually be celebrating the history of textiles. Look down at yourself right now. Just right now, just really quick, look down at yourself. You will notice that, and I had to check to make sure, all of us, because no one is naked here, all of us are encased in cloth. And you also might be sitting on a cushion or have a blanket nearby. We don't often think about our relationship to textiles and fabrics, but it's actually very intimately wound in every part of our life and actually our collective history as well as humans. So we're going to look next week at the art and politics and ways that fabric sort of weaves in our lives. So we need actually a little bit of your participation to help us with this. What we'd like you to do is have everyone bring an object that has a story wrapped around it for you. We're going to be spending a lot of time chatting with each other next week. So, and the object is really something that's fabric. So this hat is the first present that my mom bought Nathan. So it kind of is meaningful. It's something in our house. This scarf is the very first scarf that I knitted out of wool that I had spun completely myself. This blanket was the blanket, it's actually 70 years old, and it's the blanket that was always on the bed that I took a nap on at my grandparents' house. So it has a lot of meaning. This crocheted lap blanket is a lap blanket that my mom made for Nathan's mom, Tammy, as she goes over for her cancer treatment so that she could be warm in the car as we're waiting for the ferries. So we're asking you to bring items like this that are meaningful for you, that you've either made yourself or have stories around. Or if you have no textile fabric items, we're also looking at the ways that our lives intersect with each other. So actually, feel free to bring a friend. Bring someone who's important to you, and you can talk about their relationship with fabric. So either works. So be prepared for a lot of talking, a lot of engaging next week, and we're excited about it. So we'll see you then. Thanks.
Thanks, Stephen. Tanya, we'll go to you next.
Okay, so the swag making party continues today at my house 1 to 4. So come if you want to make a swag for yourself, somebody else, whatever. And I'm not going to be doing it next week, but the week after that too. Thank you.
Thanks, Tanya. All right, Robbie, I'm seeing you. You're muted.
Okay, there's a group that's been meeting that has members of the board and pastoral care and the program service committee, just to think about what else we can do to help stay connected. And so there's ideas floating around about that. And I wanted to throw one out and get people's response somehow later. And that is the idea of doing some kind of a service on Christmas Eve day, probably late afternoon. And it would be probably no speaker, but, you know, lots of music and people sharing, you know, poems or memories. My wife Mary is willing to do the tech. I'm willing to help coordinate it. I'd like to do it. I don't have a lot meaningful going on Christmas Day or Christmas Eve day, and this would give me some sense of connection and meaning. So why not just send something to president@viuf.org to let me know if you would like to A, participate in it, you think, or B, in some way have something to do with putting it on. Thanks.
Thanks, Robbie. Looking for hands on the next share. All right, that might be it for announcements. Donna, I'm gonna push it back over to you.
I just, we kind of are trying to close the circle of the service and bringing it back after announcements to a sense of what we've all done together today. And I'd like to bring us back to some of the words in the Keep Going On song. We have to make it up as we go. But two things that they talked about or they sung about. Happiness can be like pollen. And I thought that was a really wonderful image. And the world is what we are planting inside of ourselves. So please feel free to continue socializing as the chat room is going to be opened. And thank you so much for being with us today. We really enjoyed working as a team to put this together. And Nathan, thank you. And Leslie, thank you so much for adding to it.
And I think I negotiated that we are going to do a go now in peace. Yes.
Oh my gosh. You want to start that one?
Sure, I'll start it. Go now in peace. Thanks, everyone.
It was fabulous. Fabulous.
And you're all welcome to unmute, chit chat. The chat room is open. It's lovely seeing your faces today. Have a great Sunday.
Thank you. That was an amazing Sunday service.